You know what the most enduring symbol of our modern era is going to be? Not a cell phone, not the internal combustion engine. It's going to be this. Chicken. When future civilizations look in the fossil record, we'll have left them radioactivity from atmospheric nuclear weapons tests, plastic in the sea, and trillions of chicken bones. This is made from Gallus domesticus, the world's most popular bird. There are 12 billion alive today, but not for long. Humans go through 50 billion chickens a year and rising. And the reason that we're able to leave trillions of chicken bones in the fossil record are also the reasons that capitalism is heading for a crisis. We're running out of the 7 cheap things that make capitalism possible, and this nugget depends on them all. Number 1, cheap nature. The original chicken, the red jungle fowl, was plucked from the jungles of Asia. The genetic material from that jungle fowl has been manipulated so that now we have commercial poultry varieties with breasts so big they can't even walk. Meantime, 50% of chicken species that aren't commercially used are now extinct. And that's true writ large. The majority of natural ecosystems on which capitalism depends are heading rapidly to a profound and irreversible state shift. It's the end of cheap nature. Number 2, cheap work. Chickens don't turn themselves into nuggets by themselves. They need workers, who are treated incredibly badly in the United States, with far higher rates of occupational injury than regular workers. Some chicken companies even use prison labor, paid 25 cents an hour. But these low-paid workers are in rebellion, and there are huge worker protests around the world, even in the heart of world industry, in China. And this is all driving up the cost of what was once cheap work. Number 3, cheap care. When these workers' bodies are broken, what happens to them? It falls to families and communities to look after their injuries. And with shrinking time and money, there's a crisis in the ability to be able to provide care cheaply. One way to help that out is number 4, cheap food. Not only did this chicken need cheap feed, but humans on low wages also need to eat cheap food. But because of climate change, yields across all the staple crops around the world are going down. It's the end of cheap food. It's the same story with number 5, cheap energy. In order for the chickens to stay alive, we need fossil fuel to heat the hen houses, to transport the meat, to speed the line. But the oil on which our economy remains based is getting more expensive to pull out of the ground. 45% of US oil production wouldn't have been possible without number 6, cheap money. This nugget requires subsidy up the wazoo, usually from the federal government. KFC franchises depend on low-interest loans from the Small Business Administration, loans up to $2 million. And you need low-interest loans to underwrite every stage of production. But we're at historically low interest rates, and I can't get any lower. It's the end of cheap money. Which is why we're back to one of the oldest cheap things. Number 7, cheap lives. In order to make this nugget, women and people of color are disproportionately exploited in the US chicken industry. And it's not just in the US. Globally, we're seeing a resurgence in the ultimate expression of cheap lives and slavery. Today, there are 40 million slaves around the world. To put that into context, the transatlantic slave trade over its entire duration involved 25 million people. Now, as we reach the end of this crisis, we can see these tendencies going in different ways. Well, one route is more human, white male supremacy and chauvinism against nature and against fellow humans around the world. But it doesn't have to be that way. There are social movements that are doing things differently. But the one thing they've got in common is the shared understanding that if we're going to survive, the future will have very little room for cheap crap like this.